Welcome back to another episode of Rank It, Draft It, Bracket. I am your host, Josh, here with my good buddy, Derek. And Derek, we are back again for a bracket today. We haven't done a bracket in a little while, so excited to do this one. You and I had been discussing kind of some options recently and decided on best HBO shows. That's what we're going to go with, HBO/Max. I know that's what it's called now.
HBO.
So yeah, it'll always be HBO. I don't know why they went away from that, but whatever. So we have 24 shows here. Um, that I really just to come up with this list and the seedings and rankings. I just went to a website called ranker.com, which is just like a fan website where fans can go in and plus one, minus one, whatever shows they want to form like a true ranking and kind of I think a good objective seeding list essentially to use. So that's what we used. Again, we have 24 shows here we're going to look at. I did omit one show that made it within the top 24. That was Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. I just felt like that wasn't exactly the type of show we're, a talk show kind of thing we're including. Everything else is a drama, sci-fi comedy, whatever, those types of actual non-scripted shows, or I'm sorry, scripted shows as well. So that's really what we were looking at. Again, 24, the top 24, we have them broken up into four different regions. Just finished March Madness, not too long ago. And so we're still in the bracket kind of mindset here. Derek, out of the 24 shows that are on this list before we get into kind of the bracket, how many of them have you actually watched?
So I think I counted seven I had seen start to finish. I think nine I had seen enough to know what the show was about, like maybe a season, probably at least for most of those. Um, and then as I was filling out my bracket here, there was one I'd never even heard of.
Yeah.
So, kind of a mix here, as we go through.
Yeah, I'm going through them really quickly for ones I've watched again start to finish, and some of them are just like a limited series, one season, or only have had one season so far. I have looks like 13 out of the 24 that I have watched in full. And I have watched a couple episodes here and there of a couple others. So not exactly again an entire full bracket, but that's where maybe some of our choices will be, made easy. Is just I haven't seen this one, so we're gonna go with that. So again, Derek, we're just gonna go like a kind of section by section. The bracket really is broken up into fourths. So let's just start with this first section of the bracket here with the one seed, which was Band of Brothers. I'm going to put this up on the screen here so everyone can see the blank bracket before we fill out ours as we go through it. But yeah, Derek, we have the first matchup that we're going to look at is the 16 seed Eastbound and Down against the 17 seed Succession. And then the 9 seed Rome, which I have never heard of, spoiler. And then the 24 seed House of the Dragon. So why don't you go ahead and give us those first two, where you went for those first two?
So, Eastbound and Down took it over Succession.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just did not care for Succession really. I watched all of it. It just, I don't know, didn't really grab me. Um, and because I've also never heard of Rome, uh, House of the Dragon is gonna take that one.
Yeah, I mean that's what I went. I went with both of those as well. Um, the, I Rome's a 9 seed, so I mean it must be good, obviously. So maybe I'll have to give that one a watch at some point. I haven't made it all the way through Succession, so unfortunately, that's why for me Eastbound and Down. Unfortunately, that's why Succession doesn't move on. Eastbound and Down does. So yeah, we have the same, the same two shows advancing. Let's go to the next round there in this bracket. Again, the number one seed is Band of Brothers in this whole entire, challenge here against Eastbound and Down. And then we both also have House of the Dragon, the 24 seed, advancing to play the 8 seed, True Detective. Where do you go with both of those?
So something you probably already know about me, but that everyone is gonna find out as I fill out this bracket. Um, gonna lean heavily on the comedy side for a lot of these. And so going Eastbound and Down with the upset
Okay.
over Band of Brothers. And then had it really been, if True Detective was like only a one season thing, it probably would have taken down House of Dragon. But with those additional seasons, I feel like kind of brought it down. I'm going to take House of Dragon to the next round here.
Okay, and I'm going the opposite of both those picks actually. So this is good. We have some
Okay.
differences here. They were both really hard for me though. Eastbound and Down's a funny show. It's really good. I'm a huge baseball fan, so that obviously factors in. But I just felt like even though it was one season, 10 episodes, Band of Brothers is just so great from start to finish. And historically good in terms of like the content, and then
Gotcha. Yeah.
exactly, and a lot of familiar faces in that show too. If you go back and you look at the cast listing or just watch it, there's a lot of young familiar faces too. I think it was like 2003, 2004, maybe it was an early 2000s one. So I did go with Band of Brothers. House of the Dragon, as people will know, or don't, if they already know about me, I am the biggest sci-fi nerd and fantasy nerd in terms of genre. So I loved House of the Dragon. I'm a big Game of Thrones fan. Spoiler alert. But again, just one season for me so far, and I'm really looking forward to season two, which starts up here soon. But I did really enjoy three out of the four True Detective seasons, and season two was all right, kind of just was what it was. But season one and season three to me were fantastic TV. Season four was really good up until the very end here, which I, again, this is going to sound terrible. I have not watched the finale. It's been like 2 months since it aired, but I did not hear the greatest things about it. And I just have delayed watching it. So, anyways, but again, I think the couple seasons one and three do carry it enough for me. And for what I did see of four, I like. So we have different matchups going to the final, our Elite Eight matchup here, Derek. Who wins this bracket out of Eastbound and Down and House of the Dragon for you, or who wins this section?
So I'm taking Eastbound and Down out of this bracket.
That's going to be a popular. I think it's going to be a popular upset choice to make it out.
Just House of Dragon, maybe as it gets a few more seasons, it has a chance
Yeah.
in this matchup. But as of right now, the years of comedy that Eastbound Down provided me, I'm gonna lean with that.
Yeah, that's a great pick. Again, this was actually really challenging for me on this side, in this section in particular. But um, I did have Band of Brothers versus True Detective, and I did go with True Detective for that one again. And that sort of, the argument I made for Band of Brothers only being one season last matchup, um, does hurt it in this matchup where I didn't feel enough from Eastbound and Down to carry it past Band of Brothers, but I do feel like I have enough just connection to and like of True Detective to carry it past Band of Brothers. So I have True Detective coming out of this little um, corner of the bracket here, and you had Eastbound and Down again. I think it's going to be pretty popular for anyone that's watching. Okay, let's go over to the two seed side of the bracket. I guess is the best way to put it. And I'll put that up here on the screen so everyone can see before we make our choices. But our first matchup to pick is the 15 seed of the Pacific, which is not spinoff, but a kind of a connected show with Band of Brothers. And then 18 seed True Blood. And then we also have the 10 seed Oz versus 23 seed Barry. So go ahead, Dirk.
So I've not actually seen any Pacific or True Blood, so I just went with Pacific. Mostly because I didn't go with Band of Brothers. I felt a little bad there based on the
Sure.
quality. So my
Right.
Band of Brothers pick is really having Pacific advance in this matchup.
And then who'd you go with, Oz and Barry?
Then I went with Barry there, leaned on the comedy. I've not seen a lot of Oz, but it's not really a happy show. And
Got
so
it.
that's why I'm going with Barry there.
I went with again those same two shows that you did as well. I have not seen the Pacific, but again, connected to Band of Brothers. If it's, I think it's made by Steven Spielberg as well, or the same producers at least, and so I would assume it is also a good show. Similar. I went with Barry because I have seen Barry, have not watched any of Oz. And so that was an easy advance for me. So our next round, the Sweet 16 of this area, we got the two seed Sopranos versus for both of us 15 seed the Pacific, and then we have the 23 seed advancing Barry against the 7 seed Chernobyl.
So I've got Sopranos in that first matchup.
Okay.
Um, I think when you think HBO shows, you think Sopranos.
Yeah,
Um, so that was a pretty easy choice there, obviously, having never seen the Pacific. Um, and then Barry versus Chernobyl, really just going with the comedy aspect again and taking Barry over the nuclear meltdown. So
yeah. Good choice. For morale reasons to take that. I actually, however, did go Chernobyl because I have seen both of them. I saw Barry. I watched Barry in its entirety. I've seen the one season limited series of Chernobyl. I just felt again, yeah, super depressing of what actually happened. But I just felt it was really well, again, really well done, really well
Oh,
made,
for
sort of
sure.
like the
Yeah.
Band of Brothers thing. And I also did go with the Sopranos in that first matchup. So final, not much to say. Yeah, I think Sopranos carries a lot of weight. It has a ton of cachet, and again, maybe that would be the favorite in a lot of for a lot of people's choices here, the HBO bracket. So we have both have the Sopranos. I have Chernobyl, and you have Barry. And who do you pick to advance to the final four, there?
I'm going with Sopranos.
Okay,
You know, Barry, liked but didn't love. And The Sopranos was a really good show. So, it was really a pretty easy choice here, going with Sopranos.
sure. If I can back up just one spot, yeah, the Barry Barry was hard for me. It was entertaining, but I just never really grasped it either. I never was just like dying to watch it. Kind of had to like push myself through the four seasons. But um, for Chernobyl versus The Sopranos, I went Chernobyl because I have not seen The Sopranos in full. So
Okay.
sad to say that, sad to admit that. It is on my watch list, absolutely. And I almost advanced it just because of the like reputation it has. But I figured I can't fully make that decision without watching it. So I did move Chernobyl over Sopranos. So Derek, we have two different Final Four teams right off the bat,
Yeah, I like
which
it.
is good. That's going to be some good. Once we get to these last matchups, that'll be give us some good stuff to talk about. So, okay, let's move it along. Keep moving along down to the three seed section. We'll put that up on the screen again right now as well, so everyone can see. But our first matchup we have is the 14 seed Curb Your Enthusiasm and versus the 19 seed The Newsroom, and then 11 seed The Last of Us versus 22 seed Silicon Valley. So I think we're going to disagree on this one as well, but go ahead and give us your first two matchups, Derek.
So in that first one, I went with Curb.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we may be the same there. I'm not sure how you feel
We
about the
are. We are. Yep, we're the same.
good. And yeah, I mean, obviously, Silicon Valley, me, is going to take it over Last of Us. Last of Us was a really good season. I don't have the ties to it that you do, but really enjoyed watching it. But um, like the first season of Silicon Valley, and specifically was it like the second to last episode, is seriously one of the funniest things I've ever seen on TV. Still to this day holds up. It makes me laugh, and so the D2F, I'm going with Silicon Valley here.
Yeah. I've watched both Silicon Valley and The Last of Us. I will agree there are a lot of funny moments in Silicon Valley, and it was a like a good watch. Again, just like I said about Barry, not the same for Silicon Valley for me. It wasn't something I had to kind of like force myself to get through. I did find myself like, hey, I'm excited to watch the next episode. However, I did go The Last of Us just because, as you said, I have such a tie to it. I thought it was very very well done. That's most importantly. But yeah, playing the game both games, part one and part two. I have a literal tattoo on my body of The Last of Us. So
Exactly.
I went with The Last of Us. I really enjoyed it. I like the actors; they did a great job. The special effects were good. It's just one of the again we haven't finished it. They got season two coming up here, I think next year or later on this year. But just one of the best video game stories of all time. So I'm excited to see that play out again for season two for The Last of Us. So okay, let's move on to the next round here, Derek. The three seed, The Wire, versus we both have Curb Your Enthusiasm, and then Boardwalk Empire is the six seed. I have The Last of Us. You have Silicon Valley. But where are you going with those matchups?
So, fans of ours will know that we have delved into the wire in the past.
Yeah,
Um,
all those fans.
yeah, fan of ours, maybe is a better way to say that. That being said, I went with Curb here. Uh, the Wire just kind of lost me, and maybe it's probably would have liked it a lot more had I watched it when it was on.
Yeah,
When we watched it, it just felt so dated, that like really was a struggle for me. And so I'm taking the humor here, Larry David and his shenanigans, and going with Curb over the Wire.
And I
Do you want me to hit the other one or?
I'll just say really quick, I actually went The Wire over Curb for me personally, just because I did not have enough of a connection to Curb Your Enthusiasm. That was one of the shows I've only seen a handful of episodes. I know it's again carries a lot of weight, just like The Sopranos almost. It carries a lot, has a really good reputation. But I did go with The Wire just because I'd only seen some of Curb. But I agree with everything you're saying about the kind of datedness to it. I think it came out in like 2003, and beepers were big and payphones and all that. And when we watched it, it was like a handful of years ago, and just did not age super well. So with all that being said, I advanced it. So yay. But yeah, the next matchup, Silicon Valley versus Boardwalk Empire. I have a feeling I know where you're going, Derek, but go ahead and tell us.
Yeah, Silicon Valley, 22 seed, making a Cinderella
Making a
story.
run. Wow. And I went with The Last of Us after everything I just said. Easy for me to advance The Last of Us. Okay, so again, we are completely different here in our final matchups for this region, Derek. I have The Wire versus The Last of Us. You have Curb Your Enthusiasm versus Silicon Valley. Again, two comedies there. And who are you advancing out of this bracket?
I'm gonna go with Silicon Valley. I feel like it hit higher peaks as far as what made me laugh hysterically, and um, Curb has lasted a lot longer. I think it's still on. So like they're still cranking out episodes. They're still really funny, but I'm gonna give the nod to Silicon Valley here.
Sure. And then I easily went with The Last of Us over The Wire as my pick for this region. Again, just everything I just said, and with kind of dismissing The Wire and the last explanation there, I don't really need to delve into too much more to it. But easily for me out of this region, this is probably the easiest region that we've discussed so far for me personally, was just to advance The Last of Us all the way. So okay, let's cruise on over to our final region here, which is the 4 seed region. Our first matchup is going to be 13 seeded 6 feet under versus the 20th seed Entourage, and then the 12 seed Westworld versus the 21 seed Veep. So where do you go with those two matchups, Derek?
I have not seen 6 Feet Under, so Entourage, having seen some of that, gets the nod. Um, and then, you know, in a shocking turn of events, the comedy Veep takes down Westworld. Uh, I tried watching Westworld. It just didn't snag me the same way
Yep.
that potentially its opponent in the next round did. So
Gotcha. I went Entourage easily, same reason. I hadn't seen 6 Feet Under, although I did enjoy Entourage anyway, so I was probably going to win regardless. And then I did go Westworld because I have not seen Veep, but um, I like Westworld was. I have such like a love hate relationship with the show Westworld, because the pilot episode of that show was one of the best pilots I have ever
yeah,
seen in any show. It was
I agree.
fantastic, and season one was really good. I think even season two was good and entertaining, and then it just kind of went off the deep end in season three and four, and ultimately got canceled. Didn't even get a final season for it. But I just, the way I describe it is just like it just went way too like galaxy brained for me. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, there's always something deeper. There's always conspiracies and this and that. And so, I did advance it past Veep because I hadn't seen it, but I'll just get right into the next picks here, and we can discuss. But I did not advance it past the 5 seed Deadwood, for those reasons. Deadwood was only 3 seasons, not as long of a run even as Westworld, but Deadwood was just really, I really enjoyed it from start to finish. And again, it didn't really fall off for me, just like Westworld did. So in the battle of the Wild West type shows, Deadwood advances for me. And then to look at the other matchup here, Game of Thrones versus Entourage. To me, I said it. I'm a big sci-fi fantasy fan, and Game of Thrones easily advances. Although Entourage was a good show, I really enjoyed it, but Game of Thrones easily for me. So you have Game of Thrones and Entourage, and then you have Veep versus Deadwood. Where did you go with those picks?
Also Game of Thrones, that was an easy choice over Entourage, and then Deadwood took it over Veep. Big fan of westerns
Yeah,
typically in general, and Deadwood I think feel like was really good. It was really easy. I feel like to watch it
yeah,
start to finish. You didn't really lose interest as you went through. So
yeah. I'm going to keep talking about Westworld for a minute. I really wanted Westworld to be what Deadwood was, right? Like just a show that was good from start to finish, and I would have easily gone Westworld, but Deadwood had it, and it had a great cast, great acting. I know they even brought it. They did like a movie or something like a few years ago, which I did watch and kind of was. I'm not gonna hold it against the
Right. I'm
three
not
season.
really, keeping that on the list here, but yeah.
No. Okay, so we both fought for the first time, Derek. We have the same Elite Eight matchup here: Game of Thrones versus Deadwood, the 4 seed versus the 5 seed. And where you go? I'm not sure that I know where you're going with this one because I know you liked both shows, but where are you gonna? Who are you advancing?
Game of Thrones takes
Okay,
it. Yeah.
and I Game of Thrones as well for me, so we can bounce that off each other. Why did you pick Game of Thrones over Deadwood?
So I didn't get into Game of Thrones until maybe like season 3 or 4. Like, just I don't know if I didn't have HBO at the time or what it was. Just didn't start watching it. But then once I did, like, it was appointment TV.
Yeah,
Like, and one of those shows where you rewatch all 40 episodes before season 5 starts, and was kind of doing that. So I think it was a pretty easy um, choice. Whereas Deadwood, like, I would rewatch it, but I wouldn't rewatch it on a yearly basis if more seasons were coming out, you know?
right. I also went Game of Thrones easily. Um, the way I describe it is I have rewatched Game of Thrones. I have not rewatched Deadwood. So that's why, maybe the easiest explanation. But yeah, I got into Game of Thrones later than you did because I think as well didn't have HBO or something like that. But I remember just like every Sunday night seeing stuff all over Twitter about this episode, that episode. I can't believe this happened. Did you see that? Right? It was just again, all over the place. So, Game of Thrones easily takes it for me. And for the first time, Derek, we have the same matchup heading into the final four. Or I'm sorry, we advanced the same show into the final four. So, all right, I will put up your final four. Shows you have here, Derek. Um, if I remember correctly, you have Eastbound and Down
Yep.
making it out against Game of Thrones, and then on the other side you have Sopranos versus Silicon Valley. So why don't you just go ahead and give us which two shows advanced to the championship?
Yeah, I've got some pretty good balance, I feel like, comedy and a drama on each side.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm going to go with Game of Thrones over Eastbound and Down.
Okay.
Not really too difficult of a decision there. Uh, Game of Thrones is amazing. And I am going to take the comedy on the right side of the bracket, keep that balance going. And
Silicon Valley. Okay.
Silicon Valley, hilarious show, defeats The Sopranos, not a hilarious show. So,
Yeah. So I have True Detective versus Game of Thrones, Chernobyl versus The Last of Us. Um, all very serious shows. No fun and laughing for me going on in these final four. Um, three, I guess all four are kind of depressing in their own right too, depending on how you look at it. So, um, True Detective versus Game of Thrones, easily again for me, Game of Thrones. We can talk a lot about the show itself a little bit more, obviously, as we both have it in the championship match. Um, and then I have Last of Us advancing past Chernobyl. Both only one season so far, both produced by the same guy. I forgot his name. Or directed, produced by the same guy. Um, but The Last of Us, after all of the things I already said about it, the connections that I have, and again, just being a video game nerd, sci-fi nerd, it was that was easy for me as well to move it on. So my final matchup, Derek, I have Game of Thrones versus The Last of Us. You have Game of Thrones versus Silicon Valley. Are Thrones victorious for you, or are you going to advance Silicon Valley?
no, I had to go with Game of Thrones. It's just, even with a stupid ending, um, spoiler alert, I guess.
It's only been 5 years or 6 years.
It like, it was so good that they spawned like a different show off of it, and um,
And there's more
well,
coming, more coming too.
and more, yeah, like multiple, bigger universe coming out of that. And I would still, rewatch the entire show even without caring for how it ended. just it was an amazing show. I loved it.
Yeah, I picked Game of Thrones as well. So out of all the differences we had in our bracket, we ended up with the same show as our favorite, or the winner of this HBO slash Max um, bracket. You said it all. I don't need to expand too much on it. It was a great show. I get it ended a certain way. I it might be a hot take. I don't have a problem with the way it ended, kind of overall. It doesn't take away from the show for me. I know some people think it's a stupid show now. It's terrible. I
Right.
just think it was a little rushed. That's really what I have a problem with. They moved it through that final season maybe a little too quickly. Could have invest or delved into stuff a little bit deeper. I definitely maybe could have made some different choices. In particular, with Jon Snow, for me, is one. I think they should have went a different direction. But the entirety built up all that it had. It was a great show. It's a fantastic show. I will rewatch it again, and I've
Yeah.
already rewatched it multiple times. At some point, I will rewatch it again, and that universe is awesome. I've read the books. Just overall, a fantastic show.
Yeah. No other show that I've watched has, you know, evoked like as many emotions or has been like so good at doing that, making it hard to breathe when he's under all the bodies and
Yeah,
like just by watching it, you're just like tensed up, but like in a good way. Yeah, just a great show.
they just say continuously. Again, I get it was based off of books, but like clearly not everyone had read the books before the show was on, and like so it continuously just like surprised you. I remember
Yeah.
being the most surprised I might have ever been in a TV show on the Red Wedding
Oh
when all
yeah.
that happened, right? Like it just continuous like moment after moment, season after season. Just a fantastic show all around. So Derek, yeah, again, we landed on the same show, even though we had quite a bit different journey to get there. But this is a lot of fun. Is there any shows that before we close out here, any shows that come to mind that maybe weren't in this top 24 that you liked or you remember watching on HBO?
No, I was trying to think through. I couldn't trying to I mean,
I
I
think
guess
The
I could.
Watchmen was one that you and I know both did take a view was The Watchmen, and I enjoyed that one, but the rest of the viewers I guess didn't really care for it to get it up there in the top 24.
Yeah, let me
But yeah,
pull up the Google here real fast. Um, I know Euphoria seems like that's a show people like.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
That one is very heavily watched.
but as I'm like looking through these, there wasn't a lot that like uh you know, I know you're I know you're a big Sex and the City fan, so I was surprised you didn't have that higher up the list.
Yeah, I just chose to not put my manual kind of personal choices in there with Sex in the City, but you're
Yeah, and
right.
the
I
only other
just
one I would say, like my boss had mentioned Ballers when I
uh
talked about doing this, that he was surprised it didn't make the top, 25 or whatever. Um,
look where that actually landed. I did watch Ballers as well, and just again kind of fell off. It was a little disjointed in the end there for me.
yeah,
But just kind of one of those
like
shows,
in
I
the
guess.
way Fast and Furious has escalated into ridiculousness, I feel like Ballers took the exact same path.
In its
Like,
own route, yeah, it did.
yeah,
It did. Yeah, I'm scrolling through quickly too. I'm not seeing many other shows that I'm like surprised. Euphoria just is because it is really popular, but not popular enough to make it up into the top there, I guess. So, anyways, yeah, we can close it out there, Derek. This was a good one. Good one to do and a fun to do a bracket. And so again, thanks for listening or thanks for watching. Put in the comments there what your favorite show on HBO is, or if you would have landed on Game of Thrones with us, let us know that. So give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Consider subscribing, and we'll catch you next time.